Trump has promised a $2,000 payment for every American as a tariff dividend. Joining us live, Sky News US analyst Michael Ware. So how's this all going to work? Is it actually going to happen too, Michael, or is it just something that was said on Truth overnight?
Well, it could just be something that was said on Truth Social overnight. We're not sure, but because the president has already floated this idea back in July.
Yeah.
And there's a Republican member of Congress who's put a bill before the House of Representatives pushing for a $600 dividend to everyone in the United States. And
that's
the bill hasn't
whack.
moved. Yeah, well, in American terms, maybe not so much as it would be back home, but certainly we've heard this before. How real is it? We don't know. But the administration had two shocks this week, or two scares. One is even the conservative members of the Supreme Court this week revealed by their questioning of the government Solicitor General that even the conservative members are skeptical about whether the president actually has the legal authority to impose these tariffs. So that means the tariffs may have to be drawn back completely and money returned. And we know that they've collected around $195 billion this week. The other scare last week was the elections, the two governors' races and the mayor of New York, because what we found in there is not only was there a blue wave that went through and the Republicans were absolutely smacked about at those elections, but it was the issue that arose out of those elections, which is affordability. Now, that's something President Trump has been actively ignoring. He said so last week. He said there's no need to discuss affordability. Everyone knows that things are much better and less expensive now than they were under Biden. Well, clearly, that is not how the electorate is feeling. One of the major economic analysis institutions here said that already each American household in the short term is facing an extra $1,800 a year in prices just from tariffs alone. And at the same time, President Trump is feeling like he's getting a raw deal from the punter. The tariffs are part of a big, broad plan, and it really hasn't had a chance to impact yet. So he feels like the messaging needs to get better, and that's potentially what this statement on Truth Social was about.
All right, so we got a live picture of Air Force One. Trump is arriving back in Washington. He's flown in from Florida. A big week ahead. Does this shutdown get solved, Michael?
Oh, that's a great question. And obviously that is the dominant issue here in America. Virtually no one can talk about anything else because of the chaos at the airports. I mean, just a few hours ago, we had 1,500 cancellations across the country and 5,500, 6,000 delays because in the government shutdown, the air traffic controllers are not being paid.
Yeah.
And so many of them are calling in sick because they've got to go and get a second job. They're living paycheck to paycheck. So that's the real rub. That's one of the first real rubs is on the traveller, and we're coming into Thanksgiving. So the pressure is mounting for a solution, but we're not seeing either side move closer together. And President Trump refuses to get involved in the negotiation. So, look, the Senate is having extraordinary sessions yesterday on Saturday and today on our Sunday. That's very, very rare, but that shows you how important it is, and the politicians are feeling the pressure. But no, right now, we don't see a solution yet.
As for Donald Trump, the tariffs are facing a major challenge in the Supreme Court today. In a 3-hour hearing, the Conservative justices on the bench appeared sceptical of the legality of Trump's tariffs. Let's go to our Washington correspondent, Annalise Nielsen, for the latest now. Annalise, hello to you. So could Donald Trump's tariffs be in trouble here?
Well, look, it is looking like a potential issue. This is a case that Donald Trump has been following very closely. We know he loves tariffs. He calls it his favorite word in the English language. But the question is, does the president have the power to exercise tariffs in the way that he is without going through Congress first? So a bit of a refresher on this, when Donald Trump's implemented these tariffs, he's done it under a specific act from the 70s, which is the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. And so that's saying we have such a broad emergency, I need the power to do this without Congress. And it's supposed to be time limited and then revert back to Congress for approval, and it's also supposed to be for emergencies. So Donald Trump has said the emergency is we have trade deficits everywhere and we're being taken advantage of. And to a lesser extent, he's blamed some countries for assisting in the drug trafficking of fentanyl into the US. But the question is, for those states, companies, they've said this should be going through Congress. And so that's essentially what's come to the Supreme Court today. Now, the Supreme Court rules by a majority. They have a very conservative lean at the moment, 6-3. So this is why it was seeming like it would go in Donald Trump's favor. But a lot of the questions from the conservative judges were more skeptical. And so it does indicate they might be looking to rule against this. But the interesting thing is, it is because they say the president has the right to regulate what comes into the country, but that a tariff isn't necessarily a regulation. So quite bizarrely, they're saying that the president would actually have the power to ban things coming into the country, but as for tariffs, that should go through Congress. Now, Congress, of course, wants that power. They've done this with things like the sanctions on Russia that went through Congress. And so they're saying if Donald Trump wants to do this, he should just go back to Congress. He doesn't like that. So this is where they're at. And this is what a lot of the arguments were about today. And they were essentially arguing that tariffs actually aren't to raise revenue either. So here was the Solicitor General representing the Trump administration.
We don't contend that what's being exercised here is the power to tax. It's the power to regulate foreign commerce. These are regulatory tariffs. They are not revenue-raising tariffs. The fact that they raise revenue is only incidental. The tariffs would be most effective, so to speak, if no person ever paid them.
So, Pete, one of the examples that one of the conservative justices brought up was saying, look, a future Democrat president could say, hey, we have a climate emergency and we're going to implement tariffs against all these countries on climate basis. Would the Trump administration support that? And so this is what we're looking at, just with who actually has the right to exercise the power. There are other mechanisms Donald Trump could use, but if he loses this case, it will be a massive blow to his agenda.
Sure would. Annalise Nielsen, thank you.